The grand hall of the futuristic manor gleamed under the bright lights, its walls lined with digital panels that shimmered like living glass. Wealth and power were evident in every corner. Hovering sculptures, levitating chandeliers, and polished metal floors that reflected the guests in perfect clarity. This was a place where humans had pushed technology to its peak. Yet one boy's presence seemed almost incongruous, a small, ordinary figure in a world designed for grandeur. He had come here with nothing but a curiosity that outweighed caution. His clothes were simple, patched in a few places, his shoes worn, and his fingers slightly calloused from work rather than play. Yet he moved with a quiet confidence, drawn not by wealth or admiration, but by something he could not name, a call that tugged him toward the center of the hall, where a grand piano rested on a raised platform. It was a magnificent instrument, crafted from dark wood and infused with a holographic interface that allowed the richest musicians to compose with unprecedented precision. The boy stopped just before the piano, his eyes tracing the sleek contours and imagining the sound it could produce. No one had invited him. No one expected him. He barely belonged here. From across the room, the wealthy host, a man whose reputation was as polished as the instruments he owned, noticed the boy's interest. He laughed softly, a sound that carried disdain. "Who let this child near my piano?" he called, his voice dripping with mockery. A group of elite guests turned to look. Whispers followed, sharp and sneering. "Probably one of those street performers," someone murmured. "Does he even know how to touch the keys?" The boy ignored them. He stepped closer, fingertips hovering just above the smooth surface. The laughter grew, but his gaze never wavered from the piano. There was a strange energy in the room, almost as if the air itself were waiting for something to happen. "Go ahead, then. Show us what you've got," the host taunted, his smile cruel. "I'd like to see this street rat make music." The boy hesitated only for a heartbeat. Then, with a steadying breath, he placed his fingers on the keys. At first, nothing happened. The hall seemed to hold its collective breath. Then, slowly, a note rang out soft, delicate, and pure. It resonated in a way that no holographic enhancement or digital tuning could replicate. The boy's fingers began to move with a fluidity that was almost unnatural. The music was simple at first, like a whisper, but each note carried a precision that belied his humble appearance. The guests exchanged puzzled glances, the mocking expressions fading as the melody unfolded. There was a story in the sound, a narrative that seemed to speak directly to the hearts of those listening. The host frowned, his amusement turning to unease. He tried to interrupt, to cut the performance short, but the boy continued, undeterred. The melody grew more intricate, layers of harmonies weaving through the hall, interacting with the subtle hum of technology in the walls. The music was alive, as if the piano itself recognized a kindred spirit, but it was not just skill, it was something more. The boy's touch seemed to awaken the instrument, coaxing it into responding with a vibrancy that no mechanical aid could produce. Lights flickered softly, syncing with the rhythm, and holographic notes floated in the air, forming patterns that dazzled and mesmerized. Each observer felt a different emotion. Some remembered childhood, others glimpsed lost dreams, and a few were struck by an almost religious awe. The boy's fingers moved faster, yet every note was deliberate as if he could see the music itself. The hall was no longer just a space of wealth and opulence. It had become a living concert hall, an arena of human emotion amplified by technology, but rooted in something undeniably human. A whisper ran through the crowd. "How is he doing that? No one touches the piano like that." Another murmured. The host's face tightened. He had invested in the most advanced musical technology, trained with the finest composers. Yet here was a boy from nowhere, making the piano sing in ways he could not. He leaned closer, examining the boy, searching for some trick, some hidden device that could explain the miracle. But there was none. Only the boy, the piano, and the raw beauty of the music. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The melody shifted seamlessly between joy and sorrow, tension and release, capturing the attention of every guest. Some held their breath, afraid to break the spell, while others had tears in their eyes, moved by an artistry that transcended wealth and status. When the final note lingered in the air, it was as if time itself had paused. The boy lifted his hands from the keys and looked up. There was no arrogance in his expression, only quiet satisfaction. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, applause began, hesitant at first, then building in intensity until the hall thundered with it. The host stood frozen, his mouth open, unable to speak. Even his carefully cultivated composure had been shattered by the raw human talent before him. The boy bowed slightly, a gesture more humble than triumphant. "Thank you," he said softly. "I only wanted to play." A wealthy guest approached him, eyes wide. "That was incredible. How did you do that?" The boy smiled faintly. "I just listened. The piano was already speaking. I just helped it tell its story." There was a murmur of admiration, disbelief, and respect. In that moment, the social boundaries that had seemed insurmountable fell away. The boy had proven something that no amount of wealth, technology, or status could guarantee: the power of human creativity, intuition, and spirit. The host finally spoke, his voice tight but subdued. You have talent. Extraordinary talent. I would like you to perform for my foundation. Perhaps even teach others." The boy nodded. "I will consider it." He stepped away from the piano, blending back into the crowd. He did not need recognition or reward. The music had spoken, and that was enough. Over the following weeks, word of the performance spread throughout the city. Scientists, artists, and musicians came to see the boy, curious about the fusion of human skill and advanced technology he had demonstrated. Some sought to study him, others simply wanted to experience the purity of his music. He refused most offers, choosing only to play for those who would listen, not those who sought to profit from him. It was in these performances that humanity's unique strength became evident. Technology could create, replicate, and enhance, but it could not originate. It could not feel the subtle emotional currents that the boy channeled through each note. And so, humans once again proved that their greatest power was not in machines or wealth, but in the depth of their creativity, empathy, and the courage to express it. The boy's life changed in subtle ways. He traveled, performed, and inspired others to explore the limits of their own talents. Yet he remained simple in his demeanor, always grounded by the memory of the day he touched the rich man's piano and turned mockery into astonishment. Every note he played carried a message. Humans, even ordinary ones, could achieve the extraordinary when they listened to the world around them and trusted their own instincts. One evening, long after that first performance, he returned to the hall. The piano awaited him, gleaming under the lights, and he placed his hands on the keys. The sound that emerged was familiar yet new, a reflection of growth, experience, and an unbreakable human spirit. Guests and observers watched once more, some familiar faces from years before, others new. All were silent, attentive, and ready to be moved. As the final chord echoed, a sense of timelessness filled the room. The boy looked out over the audience and realized that in touching the piano, he had touched something far greater, the potential of every human to rise beyond expectation, to create beauty in a world that often values only wealth and power. The hall was filled with applause, tears, and quiet exclamations of wonder. The boy simply smiled, stepped away, and vanished into the night, leaving behind a legacy that no machine could replicate. A proof that humanity's light burned brightest when it embraced its creativity and heart. And from that night forward, the story of the ordinary boy who astonished the hall of the wealthy became a legend, a testament to the extraordinary power of human spirit, a reminder that sometimes the simplest touch can awaken wonders that no one believed possible.